So there's a story out of the Telegraph, which is a British newspaper, that indeed the UK is trying to put pressure on Trump to not declassify documents for the public to see about the wiretap that was gotten on a former member of his campaign, Carter Page. The reason for that is the UK is saying they are afraid that it will jeopardize intelligence sharing between the two countries in the future and possibly out people on the UK side of intelligence services as being involved in some kind of spying effort. I find this story so troubling and hilarious at the same time. Now, first, let's go back to, I believe it was like March of 2017, where Fox News had a legal expert named Judge Napalitano who came out and said what happened was that frequently the United States and other members of the Five Eyes intelligence gathering, they know they can't spy on their own people. So they go to their allies and say, hey, can you spy on these people for us? And then we will get the information from you, and technically we didn't break our laws. And Napolitano was basically suspended, almost fired for this. All the reports show that Fox News was like, these claims are unsubstantiated. The British intelligence agencies laughed this off. U.S. intelligence agencies and Comey's laughed this off, said, no, nothing like this would ever happen. Of course, Britain wasn't spying on Trump's campaign or anyone involved in it. That's absurd. Now, maybe what Napolitano said was technically incorrect, but now it seems like, yeah, basically the crux of it was the truth. Why else would the UK be saying, please, Trump, don't release this information, or we're afraid you will damage our intelligence serving apparatuses and you will out people? The only way that makes sense is if there were people in the UK intelligence services actively involved in spying on Trump, people connected to Trump's campaign. All Trump wanted to release that they criticized him and asked him not to do was information related to Carter Page and the FISA document or FISA warrant that they got on him, which used the dossier from Christopher Steele and other such. Now remember, Christopher Steele is a former MI6 agent. So if that's the case and that's what they're worried about outing, everybody already knows he had involvement. Everyone knows he hated Trump. He was paid by Hillary's team to dig up this dirt. So what would the embarrassment be? What would the outing of sources be there? So there has to be something more. Now remember, let's go through the cast of characters real quick. Carter Page is someone, by the time a wiretap was got on him, he was no longer part of the Trump campaign. And people that dislike Trump or defend the intelligence agency say, see, that proves there's no wrongdoing. Of course that doesn't, because the wiretap allowed them not only to further intercept any communications Page had with people connected in Trump's campaign, but also look at all of his communications from when he was part of the Trump campaign. So in effect, they were able to see everything that he talked about while he was a member of the Trump campaign. We're talking about a campaign for the presidency of the United States of America and lawful U.S. citizens being spied upon by intelligence agencies ran by the political opponent of that candidate. In other words, Barack Obama, who was a Democrat and was on Hillary's side, is spying on Hillary's opponent, using documents that Hillary and the DNC paid for. Now, keep in mind, Carter Page still hasn't been charged with anything. He roams free. He was accused of being a spy for Russia, and he still walks free. There hasn't been any sign that he's going to be charged with anything. Yet he was spied on. Now, there were other people. Remember, they claimed that was the original story for the start of the Russia investigation. It was this dossier. And when they realized that, this isn't looking good, it looks like that dossier is a bunch of crap, which it is. Nothing's been substantiated of worth. In fact, many things, despite the constant attempts by the media to prove that it somehow means something, many things have been proven to be distrue. Anyways, they now said the start of the investigation was George Papadopoulos. He was this low-level Trump guy who supposedly talked to some Russian, and that Russian said, we have emails that are dirt on Hillary. And then he got drunk and talked to a Hillary friend who was a diplomat from Australia and supposedly said, yeah, I talked to this Russian who's got dirty emails on Hillary. Never mind that everybody already had been saying for years that because Hillary used this private server, our enemies probably had hacked her and had emails. This person didn't say, this Russian never said, I have emails that we hacked from the DNC and John Podesta. He just said in generic form, we have dirty emails on Hillary. Well, yeah, everyone already assumed that the hacker, or that because she had a private server without security, that it had been hacked. Everyone assumed that, so this guy wasn't saying anything. But that was still used as justification to spy on Trump and his campaign for presidency of the United States. Now, it turns out that Papadopoulos, he was lured to a meeting in London by this Maltese professor, Mifsud, and there's a bunch of shady connections to him. You can check out some of my other videos on that, not to rehash it. And it also turns out that other people were being lured Carter Page himself was having meetings in London. So it looks like it's starting to seem very suspicious. Like, geez, maybe the UK had some involvement in trying to get information from these people and set them up to basically spill the beans if they actually were colluding with Russia. Problem was they weren't colluding with Russia, and so no beans were spilled. But we still have a foreign spy agency working at the behest of one campaign for presidency of the United States against the other. Now, you want to talk about foreign influence, right? Look at how the Democrats and the people that dislike Trump have gone berserk over a few dozen Russian trolls posting ads on Facebook. They demand investigations. They demand Facebook do something. They demand social media take down fake news and go after these foreign attempts to steal an election. In fact, some even Congress people have said from the Democrats that this could have been enough to steal the election, these Russian trolls. Yet, if that is considered foreign influence that we need to be concerned with, what do we consider a foreign spy agency spying on an active campaign for presidency with no evidence of wrongdoing? Then sharing that information with the opponents, intel agencies, such Obama would be the opponent in this case. And we know constantly that we have people from Obama's State Department and DOJ communicating with people from Hillary's campaign and the DNC and her lawyers and things such as that. It's an absolute mess. What does the UK have to hide? And isn't this like, it seems like every time that the people want to see something, there's a talk of transparency like, well, wait a minute, let's see these documents for ourselves. Rather, it's the FBI or now the UK intelligence agencies. They say, no, people can't see that because it'll out sources. Lives will be endangered. And then every time we actually get to see that, no sources were outed, no lives were endangered. The only thing that was being hidden was embarrassment on the part of the intel agencies because they are corrupt at worst and incompetent at best. There's still been no proof whatsoever of Russian collusion. And now we have a foreign power, the UK, using their intel agencies to aid a campaign for presidency against her opponent. How is that not? Where's the investigations into UK interference? We have all these investigations. Where are the sanctions on the UK? Where are claims that say, like, remember how Russian Times, the Russian news channel, has to now have special permits and basically they lose a lot of their access because they're considered foreign, what's the word I'm looking for? Like foreign press or foreign propaganda. Why not the BBC? Why not the Guardian? Why not the Telegraph? Especially the BBC. I believe it's partially funded by British tax dollars. So shouldn't it be considered foreign propaganda? Shouldn't its access be limited? And keep in mind, I've been saying all along, if our team was a problem because supposedly they backed Trump, what about all the foreign news services that backed Hillary? Like the BBC, like the Telegraph, like the Guardian. And that's just in the UK. There's tons of other, pretty much every mainstream news service in the developed world was backing Hillary Clinton from all of these countries. Yet that wasn't considered foreign influence or propaganda. Why is that? So now we see Russian trolls using Facebook, huge deal. We really need to focus on British intelligence agencies aiding a former spy of theirs to dig up dirt on Trump and then cooperating with Hillary's campaign, or at least Hillary's ally Obama and his intelligence services in doing so. That's totally fine. That's so legit. And remember, for all of you, and I always try to couch this, for all of you that say, you know what, who cares? We hate Trump. He's a terrible guy. We need to do anything possible to keep him out. This will be used against whoever you think will be a good candidate at some point in the future. What this shows is the establishment, the globalists, have each other's back. They will not leave anyone in who they even consider might be an outsider. So Bernie got screwed in the primary. We know that. Do you think someone like Jill Stein will have a chance? She's already being smeared because she had dinner with a Russian. Do you think a real progressive will get in there and have a chance? Of course not. It'll be the constant neocon, neo-libs that want these foreign wars, that want globalization, that are corporatists, that want all this corporate money. And these intelligence agencies will be used to go after them. Imagine Trump doing this. Imagine, let's say, Kamala Harris runs against Trump in 2020. And imagine Trump says, oh, well, we paid a firm to use a foreign spy and found out that Kamala Harris actually her and her people had some ties to the Chinese. So we're going to start issuing wiretaps. We're going to work with the UK government intelligence agency to lure some of the people there to have spies talk to people in her campaign. We're going to leak all this information to the press. Remember how Obama right before he went out the door, laxed the regulations to ensure that almost every agency got all of the info that their intelligence agencies had on Trump and his team and possible Russian collusion. So Trump will do that. He'll lax all the information, leave the media, do everything he can to make sure that this damaging information gets leaked to the media. Imagine the howling and screaming. Trump revokes Acosta's press pass and people scream that he's a dictator and authoritarian. Obama uses his intelligence agencies to spy on Trump using information from the candidate that he's backing, Hillary Clinton, that they paid for to get wiretaps to spy on Americans connected to Trump's team, and not a peep about that. Oh no, that's perfectly legitimate. So let's see how the tables change. And you know they will. And I know there are people that are my friends that I talk to on site, rather through my channel or on the other sites, that will say, no. I wouldn't be upset if Trump did this, and they will. They'll scream to high heaven if it happens. They know it's true. The issue to me is more important than Trump versus Hillary. I ultimately don't think that who the president is affects all that much. I think there are good things and bad things that can happen by who's the president, but my concern for years has been there's basically a deep state, which I know you get called a conspiracy theorist for saying, but it's basically that the establishment Republicans and Democrats are on the same side. They're these globalists, and the lobbyists that back them and the corporate interests that back them, they all agree. It's just two sides of the same coin. They all agree on the most important things, such as bailing out banks, Federal Reserve policy, when to go to these foreign regime-changing wars, things of that nature. They all agree on all of that stuff. And then they just disagree on wedge issues that they don't really care about, like gay rights or abortion. They could care less about those things. But that's the choice you have. This corporatist who likes abortion, this corporatist who wants to get rid of abortion. That's the choice you're given. And so you might say, yeah, but Trump's just another member of the establishment. I disagree, but let's say that's true. All that matters is to these establishment people, they were worried he may not be. And so, that's all that mattered. So that's why this effort was taken against him. And another quick aside, I believe I mentioned Judge Napalitano saying that back in, I think, March of 2017, he was suspended from Fox for saying this. No, it could just be a coincidence. Maybe it's the conspiracy theorist in me. But notice how all of a sudden he seems to be far more anti-Trump than he was before that. Almost like he's towing the party line now, right? Remember that about Fox News. I'm not saying Fox is telling him specifically to say that, but I think Napolitano learned his lesson. Don't go against the establishment. Don't out how shady they are and what they did. Because it turns out that all this suspension of him, maybe he had this specific technical detail incorrect, but the overall story was true, it seems now. Why else would the UK say, oh, no, you can't declassify this information, Mr. Trump, because we're afraid it'll make us look bad. It'll out our sources. Because they were involved somehow, which is what the accusation was in 2017. I was laughed at for sharing that story. That's absurd. Oh, all these UK intelligence officials and the US intelligence officials say, that's absurd. None of this happened. I was just a crazy conspiracy theorist for believing it. Whoops, turns out it was true. But oh well, we've moved on to something else. Who cares about that story, right? Let's see Trump's tax returns. By any means necessary. Who cares what rights are violated? Who cares? Again, it's not about Trump or Hillary. It's about we need this intelligence agencies having this much power to be kingmakers, to go after using every tool available with candidates they think is potential threats to their hegemony, and then to slow play and do everything they can to overlook crimes that were committed by candidates they think would actually help their hegemony. By the way, hegemony just means their power that's unchecked, their sole control. That's the real concern to me. It wasn't Trump or Hillary. And when people were chanting like lock her up about Hillary, I really don't care about that at this point. My concern is investigating the investigators. Why did they let her get away with that stuff? I don't care if Hillary spends 3 months in some. I know a lot of people dislike Hillary. That's fine. I don't like her either. And if she committed crime, she should be charged. But to me, the bigger issue is what were the investigators doing? Because it looks like there was corruption going on more and more every day. And what is the UK doing influencing and interfering in our elections? And why isn't this a huge story in all of the US media? Well, it's because they're all part of the same group. So remember, when people say, oh, no, they're the intelligence, these are all just wild conspiracy theories. Well, it turns out this one was true, wasn't it? So, again, Russian Facebook trolls warrants huge investigation. British intelligence agencies using their spying powers to go after a candidate for president of the United States. That's perfectly cool. So, thanks for watching. If you like this, like and subscribe. I'll probably be doing a live stream around 11 a.m. today. Sorry I was busy this week with the holidays. I worked a lot, and then I was celebrating Thanksgiving with different members of my family. So I only have a limited amount of time today, but Tune in at 11. I should be doing a live stream for an hour or two. And thanks for listening. Recommend me some people, like and subscribe, and have a good one.